A deputy mayor, your absence here is going to be a problem for me. Okay. No imminent. Yes, Mr. Best.
I propose that we accept them.
Dr. Fick? Accepted. Are we with the people? Is the live streaming live? Okay. Because I have requested that we make these kind of meetings live to the people, because part of our responsibility as a public institution is to make sure that the people have access to this. The law requires that these meetings are open to the public, and the executive, we have decided long time ago to open it in order for the people to be able to assess us and engage with what we're doing. The first thing I want to raise, city manager, is that I must thank everybody. I'm in the past three months, the people I've worked with, I must thank everybody for the level of professionalism I've seen from our officials throughout, wherever I go. The enthusiasm and the commitment in doing things right, we see it all over. And I think I must thank our officials for the work we've done. We've seen our streets being cleaned. We've seen electricity, our streets lights being on. We've seen our roads being maintained. We've seen our SMMEs. I saw Councillor Shatu yesterday working with SMMEs through our centers. We've seen our sport fields and our beaches being managed properly. And you won't believe, I met today the developers of the prison there in the boardwalk, who are building 400 units. The motivation and inspiration that they get out of the work that we're doing as investors, because that development is focusing in the bracket between 20,000 in terms of a household income to 30, and they are selling those assets there, and they're saying they are committed into what is happening because of what the city is doing. They can see that the city is at work. When investors are saying that, and I can tell you that it's something that we need to celebrate. Also, I must say, the fact that we have Transnet coming our way, it's the confidence to the assets and the resources that we have. And I think the work you are doing in your departments is going to be a final nail to the confidence that our investors would have to us and also to the city. And our people are so excited with the fact that we'll be receiving close to 200 to 300 people, senior management and Transnet. And those people, when they arrive here, we've taken a decision that we must be able to expose what the city offers, instead of complaining about what Durban is trying to do, but tell them what we are. Introduce them to the quality of schools we have. And I was saying to the two young kids, the one from Solomon Matlangu High School who got 8 distinction, and the other one from Pearson. And I was saying, you are a clear example of what this city can offer to South Africa. That the one from Pearson was the best student in South Africa, best from Pearson here in Port Elizabeth. that confirms that these people, when they arrive here from Transnet, they can take our schools, the schools of choice, to take their children to. Because if you have a Pearson and Solomon Mahlangu, two extreme schools, the one in a highly opulent environment for the rich and the one for the poor, Solomon Mahlangu, who can offer and produce quality of the students. Therefore, if we talk about school facilities, not only the schools we offer here, but next door in Grahamstown, your St. Andrews and other schools, that these people, when they arrive, we should understand that they are not only arriving to our city only, they are arriving to our region and to our province. Therefore, our understanding of the arrival of Transnet here should not be a regional, only a narrow municipally based, but we should be embracing the concept of a regional economy, building a regional economy. You know, building what is happening here in our surrounding, in the province. And I was saying to them that we should make sure that we do not compete with East London, for instance. We should not be involved in a fight between two bulls, but we should try and complement each other. That's why myself, the city manager, and the mayor of Buffalo City, and the city manager of Buffalo City, MBDA, Ashraf, and Bulumko Nelani, we had a meeting together to saying, how do we work together as these two cities to make sure that we share notes into the development not only of our cities but also of the Eastern Cape. Because the Eastern Cape will only be carried by the shoulders of these two metros. And if we have a competition, we do not complement each other, we will not be able to assist. And that's a problem we've been doing in the Eastern Cape for quite some time, that the East will compete with the West. To an extent, there was even this thing that we don't want Abantu Omnqwazi from the East, one was the Transkei, but they are here. We don't want Omandla from the East, Abantu Basesiskai, but they are here. There was that thing. Now the time have arrived in the Eastern Cape that we look to the Eastern Cape as a whole, as a province. Don't look in the Eastern Cape as the Transkei and look to King Lemstown, Buffalo City, Nelson Mandela, the Tsitsikamma. We must look into our province as the center of the economy of the province, holistically. And that's the only way we can compete with provinces such as KwaZulu-Natal, provinces such as Gauteng. That's why they are winning in this, because when they look into KwaZulu-Natal, Richards Bay doesn't compete with Durban. Instead, what they do, they complement each other. Therefore, we have grown as a province to understand that we must be a catalyst of that thinking of an integrated Eastern Cape, an integrated regional economy anchored around the CDC and Transnet. There are going to be a number of investment coming to our way. I couldn't believe when it was presented in the Lekgotla that why we deserve this. But it's because of these two strategic assets, the Port Elizabeth harbour and also the Ngqura harbour. And Transnet is still very committed to make sure that the Port Elizabeth harbour and the tanks are moved to Ngqura. Therefore, that's what we are busy with. But that would need leadership. And somebody said to me, and I was so happy with this kind of a discussion, he said to me, we will need leadership to be able to lead this thinking as a province. And leadership, colleagues, I must tell you very clearly, and many people think leadership is politicians. or leadership is the municipality. And this gentleman I respect the most, he said, we need leadership, broad leadership of the community, based on one common vision. And therefore, we need to build leaders around us. And the municipality and the political leadership becomes part of that broader leadership of the city that shares one vision. Because if we're going to reduce the vision of the city to us only, is that tomorrow my counterpart will put a motion of no confidence to me, I'm gone, and the vision is. But if we institutionalize the vision to the city, to the people, and to its leadership, the vision continues to live for a very long period of time. Therefore, our thinking must be about an institutionalized thinking in order for us to sustain the long-term vision. Therefore, the executive directors that are here are at the center of playing that role, because your MMC might leave tomorrow, a new MMC. But because you are an institution, if your vision as a department is institutionalized, whether or not it's myself or Jadu, that vision continues to live, because it's not a vision of an individual, it's a vision of the institution and the city. And I think that's why we're starting a process. Yesterday, I've called Mr. Kaba and said, Mr. Kaba, can you tell me what is this thing of the economic recovery plan? Then he explained this thing. Because I was saying to Mr. Kaba, don't hide this thing. We must know it, all of us, because it should be our vision. Therefore, we had the first process of a presentation of this economic recovery plan, because it's forward-looking thinking. But as executive directors, all of us, we should be engaged to that, in order for everyone in each and every corner to own it and say, I subscribe to this kind of a vision. It's not something new from what we used to have as a city vision 2020. But we need to redefine what is our vision for the next 20 years, for instance. Therefore, that economic recovery plan must do that for us. Now, we are going to have a meeting, myself, Mr. Kaba, and the city manager, for us to start to engage into this and say, what do we do? And what do we see for the city, not only in a 5-year period, maybe in a 10-year or 20-year period, and what do we want to do? And I must say that there are major projects that were in Vision 2020 that were put up there. Nothing was done about them. And I always say, Mrs. Mwazi, I'm worried about our resorts. How do you have assets in this beautiful coastal area, but our resorts are sitting like that? Everybody drives and say, we have resorts. But that's not a resort for me. A friend of mine, Garden Road, is telling me that you have you been in the Garden Road? Have you seen what the Garden Road looked like? And Mr. Kaba was saying, the first thing we should do, and which I agree with him, to transform your economy, use your assets. And I think he's right, city manager. Because if we wait, he's saying, if we wait for Transnet to beautify the harbor, that thing is going to take more than 50 years to happen. But if you take control of what you want to do by using your assets, you can do it quickly. But Mr. Kaba, we must all agree about those things. Mr. Sungwazi, we must all agree about what we want to do about these assets. And I think to build an economy, you must be quick in taking decisions. And I think, Ashraf, you showed me some of the other developments in MPDA. In the meeting we had a very good meeting with Ashraf and Mr. Kaba. And where we saw things that we can do and we are ready to do. Therefore, those things must be done. But that vision must not only be your Ashraf vision, your Jadu vision, your Lance vision. It must be all our vision. And then we own it. In order for all of us, when we talk about it, we are proud about it. We say, this is what we're doing. And if we do it that way, nobody will be able to come between us. Whether which regime comes in, because politics are not stable, we will be able to say, this is the direction we're going to. Find yourself within there. Therefore, that's one issue. But colleagues, we must be able to work together. Myself and the city manager, we need you more than ever before. And your commitment and in the work that we're doing. I said to the municipal manager, you can't be a jack of all trades, you know everything. You need to find allies to your executive directors to work with. And the executive directors, if you are not assisting the city manager, you are not assisting the city. If you're not giving him support, you are not giving the city support. And I want to appeal to all of you that we must strum together like in a rugby field to change our city. And I think the city manager needs that help. The mayoral committee, I always say to politicians, I put it like a politician. I say, politicians, a position of a politician, MMC, it's not a position for you to affirm your status in society. It's not a career to be a politician. Like to be an MMC, it's not a career. Like you as a city manager, it's not a career. It's a temporal responsibility out of a goodwill of the people. Therefore, it's temporal, and use the time you have and you've been given in order for you to leave a mark and people to say, for 100 days there was Annette Lovemore, but we could see that we're led. The luxury of how beautiful the cars you wear and how many bodyguards surround you, they don't leave leakers. Therefore, we need MMCs to pick up and do the work. And I'm so proud I've seen MMCs on the ground doing the work in transforming society. Because if city manager, the MMCs were not here, I'm telling you, I could have, now I can see, now there come a time that I say, no, I can't think. Because it's tiring to work and sit in meetings all the time. Even with myself, I thought I was strong, but you just switch off. Mrs. Mkwaz, I remember your advice. You said to me, I think I was thinking about it yesterday. You said, Mayor, you can make a choice when you're at home to continue having meetings, whether through a phone or not, or just switch off at 8 o'clock and just relax. But with those few words, colleagues, I must say we're encouraged with your leadership, but we need to add extra more spice to this. Just for the sake of our people, changing our communities. The Cities Network was here. And I can't believe how proud and people start to, I can't believe where city manager says, I was asking him why everybody now is coming to us. City manager says it's because you guys, we are doing something. And you must know when people come to you, it's because there's something so important you're doing. And therefore, it is because of what you have done that we have been able to change lives. And I think I must thank the CFO for not being a Mugabe type of a CFO. When we wanted to turn around service delivery, he said, I can help you. That's how we work in an institution. I don't like people. Helen Zil told me that you must never listen to officials when they say this cannot be done. You must ask them immediately, show me the law that says it cannot be done. You will never get that law. And I must say the CFO did not become an obstacle in making sure that he facilitates that other things are done quickly. The people who give us compliments outside there, it's because of a collaboration of the city manager, the CFO, and the executive directors into saying we're changing society. Therefore, when people are saying there's a change in government, there's a change in our streets, it starts from that chain that we've worked together. Therefore, that can be done. We've done it together, and I want to thank you for that. And sorry for taking your time, but I felt that I must explain that. Without wasting time, we'll go to, we've endorsed the minutes on 25 and 26. Oh, Upila Mama, okay. The department is here. Okay. That lady wake me up around 2 o'clock. We had a long chat. I was so shocked. We were discussing. I want to welcome the Department of Health. Am I correct? Darlene. She's that side. Oh, that one is a corporate. Am I correct? Yeah. Darlene, you wake me 2 o'clock. You were shocked about COVID-19, and you made me so shocked. And Mr. Brown called me in the morning, and I realized that I must start sanitizing and wearing a mask. We're going to get a report from the Department of Health, and I want us to interrogate this because we have to work on it. Over to you, Darlene.
Honorable Executive Mayor, councillors, colleagues, good morning. Good afternoon. And thank you for the opportunity to have me here to present to you a little bit of background and progress on the vaccination program in relation to the COVID-19 vaccine rollout. The presentation is with Diana, and I'm not really going to go through the presentation as it is on the slides, otherwise it's going to take too long. And while Diana is loading, I could possibly start speaking. The primary aim of the vaccination program is to prevent people from actually contracting COVID, and more importantly, to prevent people from dying of COVID. Now, the vaccination for COVID is aimed at adults, people who are 18 years and older, and the reason for that is because from a statistical point of view globally, children are less affected by COVID. Children are less likely to become severely ill, and children are less likely to die because of COVID. Now, we are not that one, Diana, that is the normal COVID stats. The other one, the district progressive. Excuse me for that. So essentially, yes, that's why it's focused on having the adult population inoculated. In order to ensure that we are able to prevent this pandemic from further growing and further probably debilitating societies, we need to create herd immunity amongst populations. And it is an accepted norm that in order to create herd immunity, you need to populate roughly 67% of your population, of your target population. Now, the first few slides I already covered, so I'm not going to repeat, as I said, what is written there. And then mainly the first few slides is a lot of background about the province as a whole. And I would want us to focus on Nelson Mandela Metro rather than looking at what is happening at a provincial level. Essentially in the Metro, we are estimated to have roughly 1.3 million people. And of those 1.3 million people, we would have an adult population of around 800, just over 850,000 people. Now, to get to 67% of the 850,000 means that we need to roughly have 560,000 people vaccinated against COVID. In the Eastern Cape, we have a relatively young population. The Metro is no different than the rest of the province. Now, the vaccination will be rolled out in a phased approach, and I think everybody is aware of the fact that phase 1 has taken off and is taking shape very well, and healthcare workers are starting to present in increasing numbers on a daily basis to be vaccinated. So phase 1 focuses predominantly on frontline healthcare workers. And with frontline, we mean it's a healthcare worker that is categorized into 4 different categories. The first category are those that work directly with patients and they do aspirating procedures. In other words, they are the people who tell you to say ah, and when you say ah, there are droplets that spread. So they are more at risk. It's the doctor in theater who gives you anesthetic. It's the doctor and the nurse who works in the accident and emergency unit. It's the doctor, the nurse, the cleaner, the laundry worker that works in an ICU. It's the doctor, the nurse, the laundry worker, the porter that works in a COVID ward. The next category would be people that work in the rest of the hospital. The third category would be staff that are not as exposed but do have interaction with patients. And the last category would be administrative workers who have absolutely no direct patient interaction. Phase 2 of this rollout will be relevant to this room. It focuses on essential workers in all categories and all spheres. What we want to do as the Metro Department of Health is to ensure that when we kick off phase 2, Honorable Mayor, it will start with the people in this room to be the first people to be vaccinated. It is currently envisaged that phase 2 will start towards the end of April on the availability of vaccines in the country, and then the distribution of those vaccines to provinces and districts. We have already started the planning for phase 2, and a lot of the executive directors attended the first or the planning initiation meeting for phase 2, which was held last week, Thursday. And we will be having weekly meetings, unfortunately, until such time as we have a concrete plan to roll out phase 2. Phase 2 will start with, as I said, essential workers that on a daily basis is exposed to community members. And as the Honourable Mayor had indicated, himself as well as the Honourable Councillors in the room are on Facebook every day within the community, working very hard in an effort to try and turn around our city. So that's why this committee, as well as the ward councillors, would be the first people that we would want to inoculate. Then, amongst essential workers, you also have different categories. And we will start with, as I've indicated, essential workers that are exposed to others frequently and on a daily basis. But amongst them, we have people who are at higher risk than others. The high risk category are people who are 18 and older with comorbidities, as well, and comorbidities mean that you either have hypertension, diabetes, epilepsy, high cholesterol, or whatever other chronic disease. And you then have people who are older than 55 that are as healthy as a 10-year-old, but they are at a higher risk due to their age. So the first people following the first group would then be amongst essential service workers, those that are 18 and with comorbidities, and the older civil servants or essential workers. Now, the essential worker category, we aim to have workplace vaccinations. Rather than drawing people away from doing what we are all employed to do, as the Department of Health, we would want to go to where people work, inoculate people, just take them away from their desk at maximum for an hour, and they can then return to work. I've had my inoculation on the 17th of February. I have not been away from work for 1 day. I did not cease working on the 17th, following the receipt of my vaccination. From personal experience, I have had no side effects. To date, of the 4,916 healthcare workers that have already been inoculated, there were 3 reported supposed adverse events. None of those adverse events could be classified as major adverse events. So the vaccine that we are currently using, which is the J&J vaccine, is considered to be very safe. The protection that the Johnson & Johnson vaccine will be giving people against contracting COVID is 66%. They adjust it as the study population grows. Remember, we are still part of a clinical trial. This vaccine has not as yet been fully registered with SAPRA. So therefore, phase 1 is essentially still part of an extended clinical trial, and we are passive study participants as frontline healthcare workers. The next batch of vaccine, as the Minister has indicated, that will enter the country are both Johnson & Johnson vaccines as well as the Pfizer vaccine. Now, in all likelihood, we are not going to have sufficient of either the one or the other for people to make a choice. in terms of what they would want to be vaccinated with. The difference between the Pfizer vaccine and the commonly referred to as J&J vaccine is that the J&J vaccine is a one-dose vaccine, whereas the Pfizer vaccine is a two-dose vaccine. In order to be vaccinated, every person who is eligible for vaccination will have to pre-register on an electronic vaccination data system. The system would then give you a voucher number. That voucher number gives you access to a vaccination site. And once you are vaccinated, depending on what vaccine you are going to be given, you would then get a vaccination number, and if it's once off, it's once off, and you will be told which number to contact should you experience any side effects. And if it's the double dose vaccine, you will then be told on which day your follow-up vaccination is scheduled for. At the moment, it is going well. We are training vaccinators so that we are able to cover the metro sufficiently when we get to the mass vaccination stage. What I do want to appeal for is that, Honourable Mayor, that the municipality would assist us that once we've identified vaccination sites outside of a healthcare facility that might belong to the municipality, and even if it does not, in the form of a church hall or a community by the municipality, that councillors would be able to support the department in gaining access to same. But essentially, we would want no citizen to travel more than 5 kilometers to a vaccination site. And a lot of work has been done already in terms of planning the way forward, and with a team of managers and representatives from other essential worker bodies such as the Taxi Association, we will then be able to put forward in the JOC and the Mayoral Command Council the final rollout plan, and I'm hoping for within 3 weeks, so at the next Mayoral Command Council, which is scheduled for the end of the month, I am hoping to present the completed rollout plan for the metro. I said very little. There are probably how many slides, Diana? But everything I said is covered in all of those slides. That is where I would want to leave that, Honourable Mayor. And with your indulgence, there's just one other thing that I would want to discuss. Diana, the other presentation, please. And I'm not going to go through that entire presentation either. I think we all monitor our COVID figures on a daily basis. I'm not going to go through my entire presentation that I normally do at the JOC and the Command Council, but what I would want to bring to the Mayoral Committee's attention is that within the space of 7 days, the figure looks low. We've had 100% increase in COVID cases in the metro. The figure says today we have 77 active cases. What does concern me, can you go to the hospitalization slide, please, is that almost half of those cases are in a hospital, which talks to the fact that people are at the moment identified as being COVID positive when they are sick and they have symptoms and they seek medical help and they're at the point of having to be admitted. Alternatively, you do still have asymptomatic people, but they are only picked up when they are admitted to a hospital for possibly an elective procedure, and they are tested just to ensure that they do not have COVID. Now, what I do want to bring to the committee's attention is that globally it is accepted that every one of us in this room on a daily basis have contact with no less than 5 other individuals at a quite close range. What we see in the metro at the moment, due to various factors, including what we all read in the newspaper, the fact that the people who were appointed under the COVID grant, which hasn't been extended, contracts are ending. And they were our people at community level who did community-based testing. We are no longer testing as many people as we are supposed to at a community level. So we are not picking up on people who are COVID positive. And my appeal is that, Honorable Mayor, we do not let our guard down. Although the figures say 77 active cases, we can probably assume that it is understated by an amount of 77 multiplied by at least 5 in terms of active cases that we should be registering. And that people should please continue to adhere to the COVID protocols and precautions, and especially with Easter weekend coming up, I am a bit concerned. Thank you very much, Honorable Mayor.
Okay. Okay. I will allow for questions and comments. Sia, okay, let me note Sia. Lance. All it is covered as far as COVID is concerned.
I think we're all scared because we're going to get the vaccine first.
That vaccine, you must give it to Makalela as the youngest, yes. Yeah, okay. Annette, no question, no comment. Okay. Joseph? Ma'am? Okay. Okay, yeah.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Mayor, I wish to also welcome the report. Hopefully, if they say they're ready as a department, then they will implement accordingly. I just have one question. When are we expecting the Pfizer vaccine to be rolled out? Thank you.
Lance?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Number one, I want to just welcome the presentation from the District Health. Mr. Voss said something, and it's just for clarity. She used the word trial, a trial run. And then the first phase, I understand, is a trial. So those who are using it, it is also seen as a clinical trial. But at the other hand, we hear the words a vaccine rollout. So I'm not sure, is it a vaccine trial rollout? Now, why am I asking? I did also, because I'm in public health and I read up on some of these things, and just for safety concerns, because there are residents out there that is not the information coming maybe from national down, and the communication is always not sometimes that clear, and people don't understand when they read the papers where they hear the word trial and they hear the word vaccine rollout. So I've heard this in the presentation as well, that the first phase, there's the issue of a trial run. So those who take it, there is a clinical trial. That's what I've heard. Now, just in my reading up, and Mr. Vos can guide me with it, I just wanted to know, because there are, like I said, there's residents that is concerned. I've got myself a few questions. We know when a vaccine is developed, and it's sent out on trial, it takes about plus minus 12 months at least to go into the population in order to see, what is the effects and all that. Now, we know that it's just recently been rolled out, and it's a need. We need it. It's not that we don't need it. It's important. We have lost a lot of people, but there are those residents and people out there that is nervous, and we understand the numbers of those who already use it, that there's no side effects, but we understand it's still a trial run. So I just want to get clarity on the two, when you say a trial run, because the communication is we're rolling out a vaccine. It's not a communication that we're rolling out, it's a trial run. People are not hearing that, and people are asking questions. So I just want a little bit of clarity on that. And if it is a trial run, obviously we'll get data back to see how effective it has been and safe it is, And normally, and just for correction, maybe it can be guided, normally is it about 12 months and long after a trial run is conducted to get it back to the residents or the community of our citizens to say this is a safer vaccine and it can be now introduced to the bigger population.
Ma'am?
Thank you, Executive Mayor. Just for noting by Mayoral Committee, since the recent Gazette, we have seen a number of applications for events, especially with the upcoming long weekends and the Easter weekend, and its large numbers. We might have to sit with disaster management just to put up a plan and be proactive to put measures in place. From what I hear from Darlene, it could become a problem. Just for noting by Mayoral Committee. Thank
you. Firstly, I want to ask you a question that you're saying we're no longer tracing and testing. Now, that's a function of the Department of Health, meaning they've disposed those people.
Thanks, Honorable Mayor. No, but there is, I would want to call it a silent protest that is currently going on. And I'm saying so because as latest was yesterday afternoon, I had a phone call from the team that is working in Sub-District A. DM, I called them in when I realized we have a problem just to try and refocus our efforts. And I was, the actual team on the ground called back to say, ma'am, you want us to go out and to do contact tracing and testing because the guidelines say every person who is a direct contact of a positive person must be tested. But yet, we have not been vaccinated as yet. And unfortunately, who is being vaccinated is not determined by me or by the local team. The government, with the South African Medical Research Council, decided where to start the vaccination rollout. I even went to the extent, Honorable Mayor and Committee at large, to write to the National Department to request that community health workers and EMS be included. And the response was EMS will now be included, but unfortunately, the feeling from the National Department in terms of their response was, as a country, they do not think that at this point in time, we have capacity to include workers at a primary health care level.
Aibo.
And their inclusion will come when we get more vaccines. Their rationale was that they started focusing on institutions where we had severely ill people. In other words, the risk of spread from one person to another from those people are considered to be higher than people exposed to those with mild or asymptomatic COVID. So that was the rationale for starting at the big hospitals.
Yeah. Now, my suggestion is that, okay, doctor, sorry.
That's fine. Thank you, Executive Mayor. I just have a few issues that I'd like to get clarification on. Just first of all, I'm assuming that the vaccines are free. Is that the correct assumptions to everybody that gets the vaccine? Then with regards to the two vaccines that are available, the J&J and the Pfizer, Darlene says that the J&J has an effective rate of 67%. What is the effective rate of the Pfizer? And then lastly, the frequency of these vaccinations. So once you've taken it in year one, when is the next vaccination be taken? And if you take the one in year one, for example the J&J, does it mean that in the year two you could take any one of the other vaccinations? Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Mayor. Just to start off with the concerns that were raised regarding the clinical trial. Yes, it is true that the vaccine is still in trial phase in South Africa. It has been approved, those of us who follow the news, by the FDA, the J&J vaccine, for use as an emergency drug, because COVID is considered to be a global disaster, and we are trying to avert that global disaster. And it is hoped that the J&J, as it has now been approved by the FDA in the USA, would now, the approval for us in South Africa to use it as the same, which is an emergency drug, and using it as a Section 21 drug. It's a lot of technical issues, but essentially it's a drug that has special approval from the South African Health Products Association, SAPRA. So it is hoped that the J&J vaccine will get that approval now more speedily. It will then move out of the clinical trial phase, although because it's a new drug, it remains closely monitored in terms of the people who have received it having possible side effects. And because it's a new drug and nobody knows what the long-term side effects are, it is monitored not only for a year, but that is also why there's an electronic data system. We register online so that we know, and we actually write online and not on a piece of paper, which batch of vaccine was given to whom, so that should things go wrong in future, it is not only an individual who presents perhaps with a complication that is followed up, but the entire cohort of people that received that batch of vaccine. The Pfizer vaccine, ma'am, we are not yet sure when it arrives. The minister indicated that it would be towards the beginning of April that we are expecting Pfizer vaccines to arrive in the country. The quantities that are coming is predicted to be around about 500,000 of the Pfizer at this stage, and they are then also expecting more of the J&J to arrive at the end of March. We will not have a choice in terms of which vaccine to get. In terms of the annual vaccinations, it will be dependent eventually on which specific vaccine is proven to be more relevant for use in South Africa. I think one of our major headaches is at the moment is the cold chain management for the Pfizer vaccine. For long-term storage, it is to be stored at -70 degrees, and the only places in the Eastern Cape at the moment that has freezers with that capacity are either the fishing industry or the universities. So at the moment we're talking to the universities to store the vaccine at the universities. And further to that, Honorable Mayor, there will be regular communication sessions as we did with COVID as we approach the further rollout of the vaccine. It has already started. The NMU has partnered with us. They have weekly what they call facts updates, and they then invite specialists in the field of infectious diseases and immunology and so on to join them, so that people can simplify to communities what the vaccine is all about. Thank you, Honorable Mayor.
I want to ask firstly the communication plan, because it looks like there's a lot of education that we need to do in relation to the vaccine. The first one, who's responsible for that? Is it the Department of Health, or the municipality should take leadership in relation to that? That's the first question. The second one is that can't we write Shane, a letter to the national minister, as maybe as members of the presidential command council, and put our concern as a city, that we also with recommendations, for instance, saying in the issue that is raised around the issue of testing and tracing, we put up, maybe Darlene helps us to put up recommendations to say this is what we think we can do. Now, here are the results that it looks like we are close to getting into the third wave. Now, what is the action plan from our part to make sure that when that happens, we are able to respond? Here are the executive directors, what do you expect from us? Should we go back to the robust communication and put up campaigns proactively where we put enforced areas? Should we do that? Because if we don't do that, we might have a crisis. But where can we source a scientific evidence that we are in the? Should we use the results we have and say, look, we are in the third wave? And I ask you in the morning that, do you expect the same thing that happened in the first one and the second one, where we have many people in hospital and also some dying? Because if the same thing is going to happen, if we hit we must start to communicate with our people to start to understand. I will tell you, to be honest, everybody have relaxed now. And if it's really that, we must start to communicate that. Because the other issue you're raising is that just essential workers, meaning the second phase, they might be vaccinated around April. Meaning the general population, when is that? It might be around September, am I correct? And if we hit the third wave, we have not. And people, when the vaccine was announced, they thought, no, the heavens have came. They have received the vaccine, but they have not reached. Therefore, we must be able to respond to those things. Can you just respond to the three issues that I'm raising?
Thank you, Honourable Mayor. The communication plan is actually a living document. GCIS, the municipality's communication unit, the university and the business chamber, as well as VW, is in partnership to ensure that we package communication messages and it is sent out in all shapes and forms in different media platforms. So that is ongoing. And it is the same with the vaccination process. We will be engaging, as I said, on a weekly basis with the EDs from the municipality and with people from the business sector and every other frontline or essential worker department. And we would then also provide the necessary education and communication material to be displayed within every workplace in relation to the vaccination process. In terms of the mitigation against the third wave and the scientific evidence, Honourable Mayor, to be very honest with you, in the last JOC and MCC I indicated that Dr. Black did a little analysis, and he's our infectious disease specialist. And I have also consulted with some of the people that are part of the modeling consortium. Nobody at this point in time is willing to put their head on a block as it relates to what a third wave would look like if it hits, not even prepared to say when they would expect a third wave, except to speculate as per the minister's announcement that we are looking towards early winter to start seeing an increase in cases. But what concerns me is that historically, where the rest of the country waits, the Metro leads with this, as we experienced with the second wave. And even during the first wave, the Western Cape was the first to start, followed by us. Thank you, Mayor.
I think we've been given a direction. Another man used to say, the people have spoken. The toiling masses have given us direction. I think that's the direction. And I think, Shane, we need to have the COVID-19 command next week, because this is an emergency. And I want to suggest that we extend this one to all the executive directors, including the city manager. And we request the city manager to put up a response plan. And I think we must act as if, colleagues, if you're talking about now and September, with COVID-19 being around, I'm not a scientist, is that we are going to face problems. Because everybody thought by March we'll be vaccinated. We are going to face problems. I'm not a scientist, but I know that we will face problems. We're going to straight to winter, And this thing is adaptation. It's through cold weather. Therefore, let's put up a plan as if it's when we're dealing with the first wave and the second wave. Because this is about saving lives and also saving livelihoods. This thing has destroyed our economy, have destroyed people. Therefore, I appeal, City Manager, that next week we have everybody, executive directors, our communication department, everybody, your team, maybe yourself, City Manager, present a plan of action. We must start with our roadblocks. We must start with enforcements. We must communicate the strategy, meaning I must start leading again the communication that we have this problem. We think that people, therefore everybody must be involved. The corporate department also, our staff must be educated about this. But you must be reminded, we're not discussing danger allowance, we're discussing saving lives. Therefore, there must be conscientized into this as city manager. And also, we must have a forward planning thinking now. Remember, we had a challenge about this rotation thing. We must have a futuristic thinking and say, if this hits us, this is how we're going to implement this. We did not implement it correctly, as I've raised it with you, because we assumed that everybody, even the one who is in the stadium, a caretaker Mamungwas, is staying alone there in the dam. He wants rotation. How do you rotate in your own house? Therefore, those things in this new phase must not be accepted. Therefore, let's have this meeting, Darlene. We present a plan, Mr. Minir. Mr. Mayor, we present a plan. We must have, Mr. Best, a security plan. We must have a campaign, and the city manager will present that campaign to us, which will be informed by departments. The political leadership must be ready to be dispatched to explain this thing about COVID, and also Mr. Lance about the vaccine rollout. You know, we must be able to explain that. Communication, you must prepare radio slots, even if we have to buy them. City manager, we buy radio slots, we go and communicate to the people, and we distribute, including executive directors, everybody, all the resources we have. Can we agree with that? Then the letter will be returned to the president and the minister in relation to this. And then if we have a meeting of the premier and also the president, you are able to have a three-aside meeting just to discuss the issues I must present into that session. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for the good work you have been doing. As a city, we are proud to have people like you who commit in the service of the people. We call the mayor at 2 o'clock because you see him, he's on WhatsApp. Maybe I needed to hear those news, because when she told me, I was very shocked. And I started in the morning to tell the security guys, let's do it as if it's the first wave. Wherever we go, people don't wear masks anyway. Thank you very much, Mr. Brown, and also Darlene. Can we go to the other issues? Which one? Yeah? 127. Financial support. Helga, Councillor Van Staden, financial support to Port Elizabeth Opera House.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, this is actually an old item.
And let me say this to the executive directors. This is not a mistake. When this city manager, I think I must inform you that this thing is written financial support to Port Elizabeth Opera House. I know that there is a confusion to many people that because of the Gazette, we have officially changed names of the city. We have not officially implemented what has been gazetted. There is a process of 30 days for appeals. There's still a process ongoing. Therefore, I can see people are just doing that. In an institution, when you change something like this one, you would have to have a resolution to change it. You don't just wake up and say something has been changed. Therefore, I don't want you to be confused about all this. Okay, let's go for it, Helga.
Thank you, Mayor. This item is essentially to seek and note the minor and to approve the minor defects that was followed in the funding process. I would request if there's questions about it, because there's no, it's not changing the impact on the legal status and the agreement between the municipality and the Opera House. But if the committee wants further explanation, I would prefer if the ED explains it. Thanks so much.
Mamuas.
Thank you, Executive Mayor. Executive Mayor, the item is presented to Mayoral Committee to approve minor defects in the processing of the item. There is already an agreement in place, but what we noted is that when the item was processed for approval, the first item served in the committee in January, and the committee requested that Opera House must come and do a presentation to the committee, which meeting set on the 15th of March. Nothing changed in the item. The amount was still the same, but unfortunately the recommendations that served in the Mayoral Committee are recommendations of the first item with no material changes. I've attached all the resolutions of the first committee and the second committee, as well as the resolutions of the Mayoral Committee and resolutions of Council that enabled legal department to prepare an agreement, and that was signed. But we felt with the city manager that it is necessary that the minor defects are noted by Mayoral Committee and approved. Thank you, Executive Mayor.
Can we agree? Agreed. But I want you guys to note one thing. Something like an opera house, whilst there were legal aspects and legal issues that were to deal with the city manager, it took a very long time. You know, what we should understand is that many of us get paid every 25th of the month. But the Opera House is the host of artists, and they eat out of that. And this subsidy to the Opera House assists people who are employed in that institution. And the agency on these things, and I think our legal department should understand that we must be able to act with speed because we're dealing with livelihoods of people. When I met with the artist early this year, they raised this thing and I was so worried because I was also worried about issues of maintenance of the building, the management of the facility. And we take these things as symbol, but they impact badly to livelihoods of individuals. But I must thank you, ED, and the city manager for pushing us to reach at this stage, because you explained this thing to me in December. And we're able to deal with it with speed. it was not supposed to wait this long. And I hope that in the future would understand that. But your interventions, I think they have helped, and I hope that the people in the opera house, the artists, are going to use the facility optimally to make sure that livelihoods are saved in this regard. Thank you very much. Municipal Supply Management Policy, Section 39, subsection 1, and 39, subsection 2, deviations and all that.
Executive Mayor, I'm sure the MMC and the CFO would introduce. These are deviations that must be served before council for noting.
Noted. I'm supposed to note them one by one, eh? It's only one.
A couple of them, Mayor.
Can we note all the deviation from which one, Gengo? Eh? From 1 to 4. Can we note them? Noted. Okay. At least the first item to
Vandalism, anti-vandalism presentation.
yeah. Okay. The anti-vandalism presentation.
Can I speak?
Keith?
Mayor, I'll just speak of the CAF, Mayor. I don't think it's necessary because of time, but I'll just on the presentation I'll talk about the most important things. If the Mayor would allow me to do that. Okay, Mayor, I think we can basically go to the slide on page number 28 of the presentation. What has happened in the meantime, a lot of work has been done fundamentally to the vandalism strategy of the municipality. We had to compile a list of all municipal buildings that were vandalized, vulnerable to be vandalized, and those type of things. That list was then compiled, Mayor, and I must say thank you to the EDs, because I have personally contacted them and have provided proxies, and we had an opportunity to refine the submissions that were submitted. What I can say, Mayor, the list of buildings of the different directorates then reduced from 940 something to 614, and this is based on what I've just said. We had consultative sessions. Now the list of buildings, it's divided into categories: guarded, which are guarded, which are not guarded, whether it's day and night, and whether it's only day and night. Also the security required, as well as the risk priority, as well as those buildings with alarms and those which don't have alarms, which are inactive. And also we looked at buildings completely damaged. What I would come to then, Mayor, is in terms of the alarm. Remember, and I hate to mention it again, that I'm still on record that we need to get the alarm system up and running by the end of the month. We have gone out on a deviation for an alarm tender. The tender closed last week, Mayor, and what we are currently busy with, we've already got the draft spec or tender document to go to BAC. Definitely by tomorrow that document will be ready to be submitted to BAC for a deviation. So I'm happy to say, Mayor, I'm feeling little bit uncomfortable, because I know it's a task, but like you say, we just need to work on it. So I'm comfortable with that one, that we can meet the target. So the item, like I said, is prepared now to serve at BAC, and that would be by the latest at next week for a deviation. I also know that Electricity and Energy, they are sourcing a budget to procure software for the reactivation of the SCADA system. And I said, Mayor, we, as a collective, we appreciate all the teamwork, because everybody needs to play a role, and I've already spoken to the ED of Electricity and Energy by thanking him for his assistance as well. What I also would want to report to this, to the Mayoral, is that the reward policy, a draft is available. Consultations are underway. This also served at the Anti-Vandalism Steering Committee, where a presentation was made. And I have also made contact with Dr. Obeng and gave my inputs in terms of what I'm expecting on amending the policy in order for it to be taken to council. I can also report positively, Honourable Mayor, on the tender for the Safer City. This item served last week Friday at the BAC. In other words, the first stage is now being completed. BAC granted the approval for us to commence with the second stage of the tender on a particular condition. Yes, we can draft the scope of works and the spec and all of it, but before we go out on tender with the 6 service providers that were approved, we need to sort the relevant budget before we embark on that particular process. So, Mayor, it's pretty much also great strides that were made, and I'm very happy to know that we've passed that stage, so that we can go to the next phase of this now. On this, Mayor, I would also just like to report to the Mayoral, and I'm talking about the Safety and Security Directorate with IT, we had a meeting with Huawei. Now, some people are saying Huawei, others say Howie, but I'm saying Huawei. So, Mayor, what this meeting was all about, Huawei is interested in putting up a proof of concept, and this is in line with the Safer City compact solution, making use of smart city technology. And obviously this system is about the facial recognition, movement recognition, license plate recognition, and all of it. So the discussion went to the extent, Mayor, that Huawei will fly down next week to the city. They will have one-on-one sessions with the Safety and Security Directorate, so that we can give them all information with regards to our workflows, our business processes, so that everything be taken into consideration in getting ready for us for a proof of concept to be implemented in the city. This is very much, Mayor, on cards. They are actually eager to come and prove the value of this concept. It's a pity that I don't have. There's a 5-minute video clip, Mayor, which I could bring to the next Mayoral Committee as well, and especially when they will be giving us the proof of concept that will be implemented. So I will most probably bring that to the next Mayoral Committee as well, so that you can see. But Mayor, I don't want to, but it's very near. It's that we're going to have this proof of concept in the city as well, and we will identify a particular area. I can say also on the issue of the filling of vacancies, the filling of vacancies have commenced, and thank you very much to corporate services who are gladly assisting in that regard. The discussion on the hotline, also coming from the Anti-Vandalism Steering Committee, which is chaired by MMC Lovemore, and the EDs are their city manager. There was a discussion about which number, which is going to be part of the communication strategy. We had a meeting, as was resolved by the Anti-Vandalism Steering Committee, with IT yesterday, as well as my directorates, and we came up, IT actually came up with a solution, a number, and we just want to sort of finalize and formalize this process. So there's a follow-up meeting at 8 o'clock on Friday morning, Mayor. So in order to activate, remember when we're working on the reward policy, there must be a hotline number, which is a toll-free number. So that is also work that can be regarded as almost finalized. Mayor, then also in addition to what the mayoral resolution was all about, we've also drafted an operational plan with different operational concepts. It's important that we gather information, in other words, crime pattern analysis, crime prevention strategy, as well as crime detection. I think, Mayor, without any further due time taken, that would just be my long and the short of the presentation which I have just prepared. But pretty much very well on track in terms of implementing the anti-vandalism plan to combat the scourge of vandalism in the city. Thank you very much.
Executive Mayor, I just want to, as the MMC for Safety and Security, say thank you to everybody involved. I am aware that the staff at Safety and Security have been burning the midnight lights till 2 o'clock in the morning to prepare this document, which I have been scrutinizing and looked at. It's a comprehensive document, and a lot of work that was done, that we can now confidently say we've got 614 sites that have been, and the consultations, which I've sat in most of them, where the officials have consulted with the EDs or their proxies to make sure that the sites that they want are on there. So that process I'm comfortable with, and we will then just follow due process now for the alarm system and go through. But I think we need to say thank you. You can read through that. It's an absolute comprehensive document. Where we were a month ago till now, there's a lot of work on in there. Thank you, Executive Mayor.
Any other questions? Members of the Mayoral Committee? Agreed? Okay. Let me state some few things. That the alarms must be implemented with speed. You won't believe, yesterday I got from a guy called Kuman a message that the spotting the Victoria Park, Victoria High School or primary, what is this, tennis nets were vandalized. And every day, something is vandalized, every day. Now, we must be able to have this reaction. We can't watch our city being destroyed on a daily basis. To me, I can't see it. I can't just accept that there are people called Damapara or whoever, or criminal, because if anybody have listened to the Minister of Transport, I think last week, the Minister of Transport said this is bigger than what we think. He even said there's a foreign hand on this issue, because these things are taken here. They go to Mozambique, go to Asia straight. I couldn't believe that we're dealing with something big than what we thought about. Therefore, I want you guys to work with speed. I'm happy that you're saying cameras are there. Yesterday I had a meeting with Aspen. They raised this issue. They're saying there were people from Johnson & Johnson in their firm. They're asking a question about our ability to protect this power station, that there will come a day when they don't have electricity because of this. And business is saying, I want to help. Do you have water? And all those questions. And if a big business like that with a national mandate are asking you those questions, you must be able to give them answers. Therefore, Mr. Mayor, please speed up this process. Make sure that we have these alarms. We will listen to this something, But I want you to work with the city manager and the CFO. The CFO must not be outside when we're dealing with it, because it's the person at the end who's going to come with the cash. If there's no buy-in from that level, we are finished. Therefore, bring in the CFO and necessary departments that you need. Package this thing. When you are happy, bring it to us and say, this is the idea. Let me be honest with you, I'm sick and tired. I can't sit here and discuss vision that is not going to be implementable. What I want is that the walls must be protected, the streets must be protected, and I'm telling you, we're going to take difficult decisions around what we're going to do about security of our city. We're going to take these difficult decisions. It's not about egos of individuals or whoever. We just have to take decisions. And the Mayoral Committee must be ready to think out the box when these proposals. Meaning we must prepare. We must not say agreed all the time. We must look in the detail of what will be presented to us. Therefore, City Manager, I want you to run with this thing. And then, Mr. Keith, you run with these things, all these things. There are solutions. There are questions I've asked the City Manager. He said, I must not talk about them today. We'll have an engagement because I want us to take decisions. This city does not belong to the bangers. It belongs to the 1.4 million people. And we must save it. It does not belong to Best. It does not belong to you. Whatever we want to do to change this city, we must know we're doing it for the 1.4 million people. And I want us to take decisions that are going to not radical, but are going to push the barriers that we think are the barriers. Leaders change environment. And I think we must do that. And if you come with good proposals, we must consider them and discuss them and just protect our facilities. That's the only thing I want, and then I would have done my job. All of us, we agree that we welcome this report, meaning then we have protected, you said, Mr. Best, the last meeting, we have 900 security officers on the ground as we speak.
Yeah, it's about 867. Yeah.
867. When do you think the alarms will be ready?
Mayor, the target is still to get the alarm contract in place by the end of this month. As I've just reported, that the item is ready to go to BAC by next week.
But Mr. Mayor, we must not forget what Mr. Makalela said the other day. He said there are facilities where there are already systems like a camera that you just need to activate. Do you understand? Therefore, we must be careful of doing duplication because this is state money. Whatever we do, we must do it in a way that there's value for money. And I'm sure part of what you're doing, in doing what you're doing, you will make an assessment where these facilities are. Because business can even change a system and say we want to put our own new systems. We can't just change everything. I don't know what is your view on this thing.
Mayor, definitely, sir. What you are saying was taken into consideration. If I would have shown you the slide, I would have shown to you where there are currently alarm systems installed. It's just inactive. So it's not going to be an installation of a new alarm system, but rather to reactivate. So that's definitely, if you can just go to that, but anyway, we don't want to go back to the slide. But I just wanted to say that as well, Mayor, what you are saying is definitely taken into consideration because there's a cost factor here involved as well. And we don't want to spend unnecessary money where it's not due.
Thank you. Okay, let's proceed. The last item, is that the last one?
Yes, Mayor, on this pack, on page 137, it's a list of deferred items, Mayor. which in the main are largely on some adjustments into the staff establishment. There is a process ultimately that will come back to the Mayoral Committee after it has been considered by the Standing Committee on Corporate Services. So these items will remain deferred until they are debated by the Standing Committee. And then the last item on the deferred items, again, the Nelson Mandela Service Delivery Charter, you would recall in the last meeting, we had agreed that there must be further engagements between the MMCs and the directorates. And that item as well, once that deliberations are done, it will come back to the Mayoral Committee.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
May I just clarify with, through you to the city manager, these various deferred items with respect to the staff establishment, changes in the staff establishment, indicate that they were deferred Mayor, the items 5.1 to 5.4 indicate deferment for referral to EXCO, so to the city manager and his EXCO, and then that a report on the outcome thereof with recommendations be submitted to a meeting of the executive mayor and his committee. So it doesn't actually say to go to the standing committee. I wonder if that could just be clarified, because it must go to EXCO, it must go to EXCO so that they can move.
Can I come in, Mayor?
Thank you.
MMC, even though they will go to EXCO, administratively they will go to EXCO, you're right, with recommendations. But before they come back to the Mayoral Committee, they will have to go to the Standing Committee first. And the reason why they haven't even gone to EXCO now is that administratively the Corporate Services is still refining certain things in relation to these positions. And then they come back to EXCO, but ultimately before they come here, like I say, they will come to the Standing Committee.
Okay. Agreed. Yeah. Oh, nobody has a second. Them, Muslim. I thought you were done.
No, you're not. Let me help you, Mayor.
Yeah, I thought we were done.
We're coming to these items now.
Okay. I thought we were done, you know. I was so happy. Adjusted 2021 service delivery and budget implementation yearly. No. Mr. Dr. Fick? Oh, COO.
Yeah.
Can I give COO, please? Is that COO or CEO? CFO?
COO.
Oh, COO there? Hey, I miss Mr. Kaba in a tie, yeah?
No, Mayor. This is an item with adjustments to the SDBIP. These adjustments are adjustments that are informed by the adjustments budget. They've been discussed with all the EDs. There are certain indicators in the SDBIP where informed by the adjustments in the adjustments budget, and then we adjust the indicators accordingly. So the report presented here, there's a detailed report that would talk to reasons for each adjustment, but in total there are 11 amendments that have been done to certain targets across the directorates. And the intention of the report is to request the Mayoral Committee to note these adjustments and that these adjustments be submitted to Council for approval.
Can you agree? The doctor?
Executive Mayor, yeah. Noted, that, but just noting that there has been a flyer that was handed out this morning with a slight amendment to the document that was handed out previously to the agenda. So we just have to accept it, note it with this document.
Oh, 12, okay. Okay, can you agree? Approval of the anti-fraud and corruption strategy and related policies. Agreed? Noted, ne? Agreed? Are you raising something, Mr. Ebers? Agreed? Mm. Relocation of Transport National Ports Authority. What is that? Okay. Where is it? Okay. MPDA, Ashraf, can you take us through that report?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good morning, colleagues and MACO members. The report will be presented by Luvuyo from the MPDA.
Thank you and good afternoon to councillors. The purpose of this item is obviously for noting, in terms of background and context, as we know, Transnet as a group has a number of operating units, and one of those units is Transnet National Ports Authority. That is the unit that runs all the ports in South Africa. That office or that unit has been split between head offices in Gauteng as well as KZN in Durban. Many months ago, Transnet made a decision to consolidate the head office and move it to the port of Ngqura, out here by the SEZ. As a side note, the CEO or the former CEO of the CDC, Mr. Pepe Silinga, who started at TNPA as the Transnet National Ports Authority CEO, in a way revived this item. The intentions of NPA moving to the city, to Nelson Mandela Bay, is to create a national spread of her head office locations. They want to strengthen their geographic ties to coastal regions and to encourage local economic development. The rationale for choosing the port of Ngqura is that it is South Africa's newest port. It is the deepest container port in the country with already existing business activities in the city. So the consolidation of head offices in Nelson Mandela Bay will come to the newly built 255 E. Mendy building at the Port of Ngqura. That building currently houses the Port of Ngqura administration and therefore will become the head office. A lot has been done by TNPA to pre-plan and in terms of the moving of personnel. I think the mayor mentioned an estimate between 200 and 300 employees between Gauteng and KZN that would be relocating to the city. There's a few of them who are already in the city, ahead of schedule. The move officially is from the 1st of April and should conclude at the end of August. So it's a gradual process. It's quite a sensitive process as well. As many psychologists will tell you, moving house is the most stressful is one of the most stressful things you'll ever do. So we've been quite cautious in our approach in bragging about the move, but also understanding there are human beings who are uprooting their lives, moving on to a new city. The city manager established a task team to coordinate the messaging, to coordinate the publicity around this. That task team includes the MBDA, Kucha, the Nelson Mandela Bay Business Chamber, and various units within the city, such as EDTA and communications. So we've been hard at work preparing for this move, and I guess most important to note is that there will be material that councillors and members of the public will see in the press, online and social. The intention is to excite the public, for them to realize the benefits of this move, that it puts a spotlight in the city, and it's actually becoming a catalyst to attract other head office relocations, as that Nelson Mandela Bay is now open for business. The move by Transnet will obviously be followed by many other call them service providers or value chain operators within the ports industry. Councillors, we've also sourced various commentary from industry stakeholders, maritime sector, organized business, and many others to share in this development and actually have the whole city welcoming Transnet National Ports. The mayor wrote a letter that was sent to the board of Transnet as well as staff. That letter will be included in the internal Transnet newsletter this coming week. You can also read it in the newspaper tomorrow, in the Herald newspaper. And finally, tomorrow morning, a very small COVID-friendly event is being organized for only 50 people at a hotel owned by the Kucha Development Corporation near the IDZ. Various stakeholders, just representatives of the industry, organized business, some academics, to start to talk and have a conversation about the move to Nelson Mandela Bay and its benefits to the city. That breakfast will be hosted by the Executive Mayor in the morning, that is tomorrow. Thank you, City Manager.
I've just called the mayor to come back.
Oh, I've been listening to this presentation for almost 3 weeks. I understand it. Thank you very much, Luvuyo, for a detailed presentation, but I would have wished that you could have given them the one you were doing with the guys from Kucha. But it's fine. Any comments? Agreed? Okay. Tomorrow we have a function, no? Oh, okay. Well, I think, no, I don't know. But we have a function, members of the Mayoral Committee. I think they are.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I mentioned the function tomorrow. I'll just give some more details.
Yeah.
The breakfast session that is happening tomorrow at the Blue Water Sunrise Hotel, operated by the CDC, is for 50 key stakeholders from the maritime sector, organized business. We have extended to the Mayor's office an invitation to people like Saki Makozoma to join us virtually. That event will happen from 8 o'clock. We have in the program speakers, as I said, from the maritime industry. We have a facilitated conversation by NMU analyst, Mr. Ongamam Tinka, who will engage with the panelists around the impact of this move to Nelson Mandela Bay. We will have a briefing from Transnet, National Ports Authority. They will be sending someone who is in Durban to join us via video link in the meeting tomorrow, Mr. Mayor. And therefore the program is already on your desk.
Saki is confirmed.
I will touch base with the Chief of Staff as I walk out.
You don't know. Can we get that information whether Mr. Makozom has confirmed?
Executive Mayor, the invitation has not been extended to me, so I am not sure if there's a disconnect between myself and the MBDA, or whether there's a disconnect between myself and your office,
Oh,
because
yeah.
it's the first I'm hearing about this.
No, it's correct. You know what you're saying. I thought about it. That the ED economic development and also the MMC for economic development are supposed to be part of the.
Mayor, I'm not handling logistics, so Luvuyo, please sort out the logistics with the office of the mayor and make sure. I think the principle is not only MMC for that matter, the ED and extension to other mayoral committee members if it's possible as well.
I will touch base with the office of the mayor around the guest list. Thank you.
Okay, I think the program would be good. The intention is for us to receive the people in Transnet, and that's what will be happening tomorrow. Thank you very much. Yeah. Number 4, item number 4.
Executive Mayor, the item number 4 talks to an item for noting by the mayoral committee of the IDP process. There's a process plan attached which talks to the important dates that we want to make sure that firstly, when the draft IDP is presented to council for noting at the end of March, that a public participation process ensues. So that detail is attached here, and the fact that mayoral committee will note as well that the process plan itself may change depending on how the COVID-19 pandemic shows its ugly head during that period. But the intention is to make sure that once it gets presented to council for noting end of March, the public participation process can then start, which will lead us to the ultimate final adoption by latest end of May, latest by end of June. It's a process that the mayoral committee members may note as well, that when it was adopted by council, it was adopted over a 5-year period. So every year we make sure that that process is presented to mayoral committee, and that we also work with the office of the speaker, the IDP office, and the mayor's office to make sure that the mayoral committee and ward councillors take an active role in the public participation process as well on the draft IDP. So as a matter of procedure, that a process plan is attached for noting by the mayoral committee.
Can you agree? Noted. Yeah, not. Aquatics. It's irregular. What is it? Aquatics. Oh, Ezra. Okay. MMC.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. We already have the signature of the Chief Financial Officer, so that is a blessing. Furthermore,
oh, is that thing that was outstanding?
which one?
It's a new item.
Yes, it's a new item.
That
Okay.
sounds so quiet today. I'm not talking, Mayor.
Okay.
We must still share the bad news about the Bafana and Ghana game, Mayor, but we won't do it at this platform.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's move to the aquatics.
What is happening, Bafana?
That's why I'm saying we will take it to another platform, not here. I just want to mention.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
But today we're sharing good news, Mayor, and also the approval of the mayoral committee. This is actually something that fell in our, I would say, in our laps. It is an opportunity for us as a metro to actually host the 2021 Olympic trials. This does come with a cost, but not really at a cost. It's more like a partnership with Aquatics, the local federation. But in terms of maintenance, that is actually where it comes in terms of spending this amount of money. That's only like 450 plus minus 450,000. But the benefits of hosting the trials, that is key, and also like putting the metro on the map. But more, it's actually punching Durban in the stomach because they were not ready. They dilapidated swimming pool just didn't make it. We are also having a few maintenance issues, but that is where the partnership with the aquatics, the local aquatics federation will come in. We must also remember, Mayor, they do come with lights, cameras, action, so there's where the benefits will come in. We also must remember that swimming is actually one of the, I would say, the more elite sports. So it does come with lots of benefits and to showcase what we have here in the metro. For that reason, I would support this, and I hope that the Mayoral Committee will also support this. There's only benefits when it comes in here, and this will also waken us up in terms of maintaining our own facilities. But at the moment, we do need assistance or the partnership with aquatics. Thanks so much, Mayor.
Any comment, Meiko? Agreed? Item number 2, appointment of the advisory board for Mandy, MMC.
Thank you, Mayor. The Mandy Art Centre has a long history. This is a concept that was approved by council in the 1990s, I think 1993. Up to date, this centre hasn't opened for many reasons. There was a the construction was supposed to be 14 months. It took longer than that. Up to date, it has not been open for the last 2 years, the cultural centre. But we need also, like, we shouldn't, although we're waiting like more than 2 years for the doors to open, we also have to look in terms of that this centre don't degenerate in terms of becoming a red location. And for that reason, it is then proposed that we actually put together an advisory board in terms of to assist us, to do things right and to get everybody on board. That is essentially the purpose of this one. And we do have a concrete plan, but we need the buy-in from the communities and all the other art sectors when it comes to arts and culture. So essentially, it is actually to get everybody on board and to have proper participation. The opening date, we initially thought the 21st of March would be proper, but the opening of those doors, we have waited 2 years, more than 2 years. So another week or so would not actually make much of a difference when it comes to opening. But the most important thing is to actually have everybody on the same path and to take arts forward. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Executive Mayor. Executive Mayor, I am proud of this government because 2 years ago we managed to get the Mandy project to a certain phase. And as we were just about to get it open and running, another government came in and they totally failed. But again, it's now come full circle that we are the ones who are going to get it running. So I'm very proud of this government for that. Just one thing, Executive Mayor, that I would wish to add on the proposed advisory board. Could I please request that we make an amendment that includes a representative of the EDTA Directorate? Because I believe not only is it a cultural project, but it is also a tourism project. So I think it would be advisable to have a representative or 2 representatives of the EDTA on the board. Thank you.
MMC.
Thanks so much. It's not an oversight actually, but it does say the last bullet point, any other representative. But it's proper that we do have EDTA on board. Thanks so much, MMC.
But why do you have MBDA and EDTA at the same time? Is it city manager? Mama, why do you have both?
I thought Councillor would answer that question because she's putting a second one. We had one. But Executive Mayor, the MBDA has been running with a number of arts and culture programs, especially around relocation. And we felt that it's important that they form part of, they also support a number of cultural programs as well. That's why we brought EDTA in. But I think tourism, since tourism has moved from the entity that was outside of the city, it would make sense to have a tourism representative from inside the city as part of the advisory committee.
I think when you structure it that way, it's better because you're focusing on tourism in EDTA. Therefore, let's say EDTA tourism.
That's correct, exactly.
Yeah. I don't want us to start this because, you know, most of the time we want to create our own committee now. But the people behind this, they understand why they choose. But let's add that one. Can we make the amendment? Mr. Kraba, are you cool with
That's
that?
fine.
Okay. Agreed, Doctor?
May I just say an observation here? I noticed, and you said that maybe they have a reason for putting all these people here, but I noticed that the board is going to be quite a large board. Just an observation from my side. And I see in some instances there's no particular number. For example, this for ESRAC, they say representatives and representatives from Nelson Mandela University. So it's just an observation. It looks like it's going to be a big, large number of members of the board, and I'm not so sure if that's going to be effective.
Edie?
Thanks, Mayor. We were not looking for a large board, you're quite correct, MMC, but we felt that we were looking for strategic organizations in trying to run away from the Mendy challenges. I mean the red location challenges, because I think when we analyzed the challenges at red location, we discovered that it was becoming a community issue versus the city. And we were looking for an advisory board that would be representative of the various interests of arts and culture. The university has got an arts and culture department, and they're very instrumental in the programs that we run around the city. The business sector as well is very instrumental in. The other thing that we were running away from is the ownership issue. Now that Mendy is finished, I'm sure you've received several meeting requests, Executive Mayor, from various people who feel that they now own Mendy. There's an ownership issue, and we're trying to make sure that there's a buffer between the city and the community interests. So whatever community interests that are there must be dealt with by the advisory board. And then the advisory board can deal with those with the city. We were trying to make sure that no one is going to say, I am not represented. But also we are trying to create an arts and culture center that belongs to the city, not to Ward 14. It may be in Ward 14, but it is not for Ward 14, but it's for the city, which I think is something that we missed at red location, because it became a red location issue for that particular ward. Thank you, Executive Mayor. But also a quorum issue as well, so that the board sits as on a monthly basis. If you've got at least more people, you're looking at a quorum of about 10 people. If 4 is absent, then the rest can continue with the meeting. Thank you.
Yeah. No, I think you're making a good point. You see, no, I don't subscribe. Okay, let me leave you through. But I think the board is structured very well, because we must detach it from the ward. This is not an asset for the ward. It's an asset for the city. Therefore, your emphasis, and I think it makes sense. And the ward is highly represented here. Look, you have 2 representatives from the arts and culture community, meaning, I think we must put it very clear, not the arts and culture community of the what, the Nelson Mandela Arts and Culture Community. Because if you don't put it clear, they will think that you're talking about the area arts and culture community. Can we change that? The civic organization, is it local or Nelson Mandela civic organization? Nelson Mandela. Yeah. Okay. No need for a Department of Arts and Culture provincial. No need.
Executive Mayor, we've got a technical committee.
Oh, okay.
No,
it's fine. Can we approve this? When is the opening, ma'am? You will brief me more about that. On the 24th. When are we meeting with the committee? The main one?
It's scheduled for the 17th at 1.
Yeah?
The 17th, next week.
Next week?
To meet with the...
Committee?
Yes. No, not the committee, sorry, Mayor. Delegates from...
When are we meeting with those delegates? I think let's meet them Friday, man.
Okay.
You know, because if we don't meet these people now, we'll have a problem next week. I could pick it up in social media. That people believe exactly what you were saying, madam. They saw that we were cleaning there. Now they're starting to do funny things. Can we make sure that this Friday? Yeah.
We'll confirm with your office, Mayor.
Oh, 24th is not next week.
No, Mayor, the opening is not on the 24th. We will sort that out with your office.
Oh, sure, no, it's fine. Okay. Item 3, page 10. Are we about to finish, no? Yeah, ED, MMC, the recommendation.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This is basically to get a letter of support in terms of for bidding for the UCI Emerging Nations Cycling Championship. Now, it will be a longish, not long, but it will be a process. So for now, it is basically to show interest and to put in a bid. That's why we need the letter of support. And then the process will then unfold from there. This should be gated because we are a metro cycling city. So this would actually be something that we would want. And if we can host something as big as the Ironman, we are more than ready to actually host this event, should we be successful. So that's why we want support from the Mayoral Committee and from yourself. Thank you.
Members of the Mayoral Committee? Agreed? Agreed.
Thank you, Executive Mayor. Just a point of correction for Secretariat on page 11. Recommendation A is by 30 March 2022.
It looks like we're done,
No, this is, apologies, Mayor. CFO is confusing me. This is CFO. It's 2021, it's correct. He called me to confuse me because he's got nothing to say about money today. Thank you.
This one? Okay, that was the last item, am I correct? Thank you very much. The meeting is adjourned. Closed.
Let's sit down myself now.
Yeah.
To go through this item.
Yeah.
But also
even before.
Yeah, the unit is so bad not to structure it as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Otherwise,